My sister is Helga. We are Karelians, so don't let the name seem strange to you. When she was 16, she was diagnosed with a terrible disease. Because of her kidneys, she can never have children. There are certain circumstances that make it impossible for them to adopt a child as well. She gives all of her love to her dogs. She breeds Staffords. Fortunately, the conditions allow it. Once she was walking with her puppies in a small deserted grove, when suddenly a nasty grandfather appeared, with an angry expression on his face and said, "People have nothing to eat, and they feed the dogs." Helga, I will call her Olga from now on, looked at him in a way that made me feel cold. A couple of days, this grandfather was taken away by ambulance with poisoning. I didn't pay much attention at that time. Grandfather drank some booze, common thing. A couple of months later, I was surfing on the internet. Some George sent me an invitation to the group, Dog Hunters. I declined, telling Olga. She looked at the picture and said with one lip, "Scum." Purely out of curiosity, I decided to go to this page 10 days later, and in the end found on the wall of the same George, remember, mourn, who died. I still do not know whether he or someone from his relatives, and he lived at thousands and half kilometers from us. The last incident was the final blow. It was late at night. I was coming home from work and I stumbled right at the doorway. The pain in my arm was terrible. Ambulance wasn't called. Helga sat behind the wheel and took me to the emergency room. There was no line. There was the man in front of us, but he had already gone to the reception. True, after us arrived a woman with a rather heavy son who, like me, wasn't lucky enough to have fallen. Then a rather handsome tall brunette came into the waiting room, a real hottie. Playing with his car keys, he leaned against the wall and said so arrogantly, "Who is the last one?" "Us," replied the aunt. He hummed. At the same second, a disgusting ringtone came from this pocket of his jeans. He had picked up the phone. I will not describe his conversation, generously sprinkled with full language. But the meaning was that he was walking by the garage, and then a dog barked at him. He kicked it, and it bit his ass and ripped his 3,000 jeans. He summed up his speech by saying that he would now crush all the dogs in his car if they got caught. Helga shook. I whimpered to distract her attention. As soon as a patient came out of the trauma surgeon's office, this guy brazenly pushed the door open and walked in, ignoring the line that was sitting there. I wanted to be a little indignant, but Olga shot at me. After this guy left the waiting room, I entered the office. The not quite sober doctor assured us that it was just a bruise, and after applying iodine, netting escorted us out. I was a little indignant, but still glad that it was over. It was snowing heavily that night, and the first thing we saw when we left the trauma was the same guy cleaning the windshield of his Audi still talking on the phone. It was instantaneous. The brush from his hands seemed to jump out on the road. He bent down to pick it up, but then, just lightning quick, he was hit by a passing car. Thank God he's alive. I love my sister very much, but I can't help feeling that something is wrong with her. I don't believe in any kind of mysticism, or rather, I didn't before. I heard a family legend once, like my grandmother or grandfather was a witch, or something like that. Our parents passed away early. She's the only blood-related person in the world, and I'm afraid to ask her. Moreover, I'm starting to avoid her, even though we have always been together.